Welcome, everybody, to a crazy, exciting episode, but it's a little bit bittersweet, David. And it is our 100th episode. And as someone sitting here, I'm not across the desk from you, but across the screen from you, and I feel good that we've made it through 100 episodes together. It's been a journey that has had its bumps and bruises, but it's had a lot of laughs and a lot of great conversations with a lot of amazing people. But it's bittersweet, David. So, kind of tell the listener a little bit how you feel, but why is it bittersweet, David?
That's great, Clark, to get to our 100th episode.
Yeah,
Puts us, I think, in the top 3 or 4% of people who ever start a podcast. But we do want to tell you, the listener, that this will be our final episode for a while. We're going to put the Burn Your Boats project on the side, and we're going to tell you why we've put it on the side. We're going to kind of walk you through and summarize the key points about why we made the show, what we tried to do with the show, and why we'll finish up at the end, why we're kind of going to put the show on pause for a little while. We have always, Clark and I have always talked about authenticity, and it has been the leading and the foremost thoughts in our mind when we came to do a podcast, that it needed to be authentic and it needed to be offering true and real value to the listener. Um, we never had a monetization plan for the podcast. And when you go out and you talk to every other podcaster and they say, well, how do you monetize the show? We'll say, well, we don't monetize the show. It is a benevolent educational platform. And we're both going to share in a moment why we made the show. What is it individually Clark wanted to get out of the show and what he wanted to give from his input in the show, and what I wanted to give from my input in the show. But when we talk to people out there in the business, or even editors that we've tried to hire, and social media people and whatnot, every one of them land on, okay, so where's the money? Where are we going with this? And it was never our plan. It was never our thing. And we know a lot of very, very well known educators, podcasters. And quite frankly, when you get to see what's behind the curtain with a lot of these people, I'm not going to say anything derogatory, but there is a certain sales desperation to what they're doing. Always reinventing the next course, reinventing the next, get rich quick scheme, selling it to the mugs out there. And we're never going to do that. It's just not who we are as individuals. And so, Clark, I want to ask you a question. We're at episode 100. It's quite an achievement, but it's also where we're going to park it for right now. Clark, why did you want to get involved with this Burn Your Boats project? Tell me originally, what was the thoughts? And then we're going to walk through a summarization of the actual show, and give you our core beliefs and our core takeaways from 100 episodes. So without going any further, Clark, why did you do this show, and what is it that you wanted to put out there?
yeah, it's an interesting question. It's a thought provoking question as to what truly prompted us to get together to start this. And I think that I've written down, David, for a couple of years now, my New Year's resolutions, starting probably 2022 or 23, is like I want to get two or three of my family members, my friends, my network, someone that is probably in a W-2 job, probably in a bit of comfort. They're just going along. They're thinking, hey, investing is too risky. It's this, it's that. Fill in the blank excuse, right? And so I thought about it and I said, I want to be able to impact three people. It's not a lot of people, right? To be able to help them on their journey to start. To start is the biggest challenge, into whether they're going to buy a rental house or they're going to participate in some sort of syndication, just something, as opposed to just like playing in the stock market, right? It's very easy to do that. And so, but then I noticed the first year that I did it, David, is, I had a few conversations. I was proud that my brother bought a rental property a couple years ago to kind of start him on that journey, and it hasn't made him a lot of money, but at the same time, it hasn't hurt him, and it's a piggy bank. And so, but I wasn't reaching a lot of people, and I thought, man, if we were to start a podcast, it would certainly give me more of a platform when I'm having discussions with friends, with when we're out having a beer together or we're at the coffee shop and they start talking about X or Y or challenges they're facing. I'm like, here, go listen to this episode, right? Go listen to it while you're jogging down the road, getting your afternoon exercise. And I think that it's really enabled me to be able to reach a lot more people. And that in itself is something that I feel very proud of, that I've been able to have. It instigates more conversations, and I think it empowers other people to do that. So that was kind of the basis to even just start this thing altogether. And there's other reasons and things like that. It doesn't suck to have people talk to you about it or recognize you. Like, of course, those are great things as well too. But I think the foundation of being able to reach my close network and have them be able to come to me to even know to ask the question, right? Like maybe they have a certain feeling about this, but they don't feel comfortable talking to a random person, a random influencer, a random YouTuber, whatever. But having that bond that we have, they're like, hey, Clark, I see what you're talking about. Can I borrow 30 minutes of your time? Which of course I say, of course. So that's kind of it for me, David. And I could spend the whole episode talking about other reasons, but that's like the core belief is like what the confidence that I have in my head, how can I, beam that confidence to them so they can start on their entrepreneurial journey just like I did. So, David, you probably have a slightly different version. Talk to the listeners about why the hell are we shooting this once a week and doing all the rigmarole and everything? What got you out of bed to start this?
All right. And I appreciate, because I'm going to mirror a little bit of what you just said. I, at my core, Clark, I'm quite a private person. I'm private. I don't naturally fall into a comfortable social media world or any of that. But I'm also passionate about my own experience coming from financial illiteracy, essentially, where I didn't have any financial help or advice anywhere. And so, it's taken me a great deal of my early adult life to get through that immaturity of being a young man, the following the well-worn paths that, you know, the, following the path towards, getting that job because I need to eat, I need to pay my rent. That was my primary concern. There was nothing high level about what I was doing for a very long time. And then, I was so fortunate in that in my career, I found myself on the phone with thousands of very, very successful people in W-2 jobs or small businesses and whatever. And I found this fear, fear of investing, fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of the economy, fear of macro, economic data, this fear across the vast majority of highly educated and highly informed people. It's almost the more informed they were, um, the less able they were to invest and to take action. So over the years, that was just a sales role I had. We were selling our own products, right? But over years, I started to really empathize with this fear, this concept that these people, they have the money to invest. They've worked hard for this money. And yet, they find themselves psychologically stuck in the mud, right? And over the years, I started to see and understand what the price of inaction, right? So, people call, they say they want to do this, they end up not doing it. I follow up a few years later, they still haven't done anything. And so the price of, financial illiteracy, the price of inaction is so measurable. And I very quickly give you a story that is very, very close to me. And we were just talking before we came on online. I have a friend. He's the same age as I am, and we had the same upbringing. We had the same financial journey into our 20s. We both had good jobs. We both had, we were both well qualified. And over time, I was investing and going on the more entrepreneurial route. So up until our mid 20s, our late 20s, even early 30s, very similar kind of trajectory. And then in my late 20s, early 30s, I started to go down a more entrepreneurial and investment route. And he stayed on the W 2 income, stayed on being a renter, stayed on taking it comfortable, spending his money on, fancy cars, fancy watches, expensive vacations, girlfriends, motorbikes, all the stuff, living the life from an exterior point of view of the successful man. Okay. Over time, that arc has bent further and further away from each other, where now my life, my financial future, my financial position is now immeasurably different from his. The reason I say that is I have just found out that his landlord sold his property, and he has recently moved, unfortunately, divorced and all that kind of stuff, but he's recently moved home with his mom, 53,
Wow.
54, right? And so I'm not saying that that's a trajectory for everybody, Clark.
Right.
That's very rare, right? But I am saying that this is over the arc of time,
Yeah.
inaction, spending, not thinking about the future versus the action that we have talked about here on the podcast. I have had, to my point, 2,000 or so more investors, and I've heard the same mental block. I have the money, I'm doing well, I know I need to do it, but I can't, or I'm stuck, or I need too much information. And they're just bogged down, afraid of making decisions. And so when I came in to do this podcast, I wanted to document the takeaways of those 2 or 4,000 conversations I had over the years, so that psychologically, people who listen to Burn Your Boats would have more understanding of the why they're investing, not the how, not
Yeah.
the color of the house or the nature of the ETF, right? But why they're doing it. And you're doing it because you can see the difference between that arc. And so I wanted to get into this podcast to document those conversations and then give you the actions, the simple actions that I used to free myself financially. And so what I'd like to do, Clark, if you would engage me with this, I'd like to walk the listeners on this, this pause episode, our 100th episode. Let's summarize what those actions are. Let's summarize what those simple things, mindset, strategies, and actions that are the difference over the arc of time. Because to your point about your brother, he invested in a piece of real estate. I'm not making him money yet, but he only bought it 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
there's a long ways to go. And,
Right.
is he going to scale it? Like, what does he do now? You don't just buy a house and everything's good. That's not what we
Right.
thought about here. So I would like to walk through the key points that we have made over 100 episodes in Burning Boats, including the learnings that we took from our guests. And let's walk through the key points so you can hand this episode off to a son, daughter, a young person, so that they can hear what are the differences that they can make early in their lives that will dramatically change the arc of their financial success over time. So without further ado, Clark, what is this journey of wealth? Is it as hard as they think? Is there all of the complexity, all the billions of business books and thousands of podcasts and millions of hours of education? It actually boils down to some really simple things, right, Clark? So tell me about, why is financial freedom so attainable?
It's attainable through being able to take action, right? So like if let's just jump into it. They like if you were to look at like a roadmap and say, okay, here's step one, here's step two, here's step three, right? I think from the most basic form, and no, I don't think anything that we've talked about on the 100 plus episodes we've done is there like some great cheat code, right? Like, oh, if you invest in this stock or this type of Airbnb, it's going to be it, right? Because it doesn't really exist, right? But you've got to start. And how do you start, David? I mean, step one, it's pretty simple, right? You go out, you find a job, right? I know that for me personally, I went out and within a couple years, I remember it really helped propel me to buying real estate is I started to save up money, right? So I mentioned you had mentioned your friend that was um, buying the cars and the watches and chasing after the girls, and it put him in his mom's house, right? And that's not to say that you won't attain this financial freedom if you by just buying Casio watches, right? And by buying a 1983, banged up car. But what it is that I was able to get a job, okay? And I quickly after I remember my third year, so I'll go back to 2006. By 2008, I got out of college in '06. By 2008, I was able to get into sales and I was able to make six figures. And I think that was a huge tipping point to be able to start saving money quicker, right? And I know that sounds like obvious, like oh, I'll just make more money, which makes it easier to save. But I was delaying my gratification. So step one, I think, is certainly. I mean, it sounds basic, right? But it's the foundation that you got to be able to pay bills and it makes it a little bit easier. Are all could you go get go to the subscribe to the YouTube channel, how to buy stuff with no money down, right? There's a million of those. However, guess what? When you really peek behind the curtain, when you really start doing the thing, you're going to need to have money or you're going to borrow, you're going to leverage it so much that you're not going to make any money and you're going to piss off a lot of investors. So step one is trying to go out and get a job where you can utilize your best skill sets, and that's just the beginning, right? And that's where it is. So after that, David, what is kind of the next step once you get a job? Which is not this is an obvious thing, right?
Yeah.
What next?
It's really important what you just said. For a lot of people out there, particularly, and we've interviewed a lot of young men, and they have this approach that they're in their early 20s, and they live in a different economy, and their Bitcoin has gone well, and blah 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 blah. Their current job is going well, or their current business is going well. They're in their 20s and they're making 500 grand a year. They think they've made it. I made it. They don't know shit about wealth yet. That's step one. Go get a job. Go be successful somehow. There's a billion podcasts telling you how to flip a house, buy a house, start a business, buy a business. Hermosi's out there. Cody Sanchez is out there. There's just everybody's out there. Walker Dybel, who we had on a show a couple of weeks ago, is out there at scale telling you how to make money, right? That is step one. And I've seen this over and over again, this kind of bravado around, oh, I've made it. You old man can't tell me anything. Bottom line is making money is step one. Creating wealth is an entirely different skill set, real wealth. And then being a custodian of wealth and a custodian of good tax planning and a custodian over the long period of time. If you're 25, you're at or 30, you're only beginning your financial life, right? This initial money that you're making. If you're making enough money to move out of your mom's house and get yourself an apartment in New York or LA and go out at the weekends and you can have a girlfriend and you're making 250 grand a year and you're killing it, guess what? You don't know shit yet. You're making 250 grand a year in New York. And you move out of New York, or you have a child, or you have two children, three children, and then you've got two cars, and you've got the responsibilities of life, healthcare for the whole family, this, that, the other. That lifestyle that you're leading in your 20s or 30s is going to quadruple the cost of that lifestyle in what you need to provide. It's not about you. It's not about your clothes, your watches, your food, your house, your rent. Go have a family and see how much that costs. Go send kids to college, see how much that costs, right? Go save and invest, see how much that costs. Go, have medical issues later on in life, see how much that costs. That life is a long arc. And if you think you're killing it, you don't need to learn anything, whatever, because you're making money in your 20s. You're a kid who has yet to understand that making money and creating wealth sustainably is a marathon, and you're at the starting line. All that job does that allowed you to move out of your mom's house is put you at the start of the journey. That's it. Most people don't get to the congratulations. You've got your trainers on, you've got your little name tag on, you're at the start of the journey. You made it. You're at the marathon. Most people aren't even at the marathon,
Yeah.
right? So at least you made it to the marathon, but you still have, a good long hike in front of you. You're going to have to perform over a very, very long period of time. And that is what this podcast has been about. It is not complicated, but you do have to follow the steps, right? And so once you understand that making money in your 20s is not the end of it, don't walk around with your peacock feathers out. Don't spend it. Don't think you're cool, because entropy, the idea that your life that you've created order about, entropy being the concept of this state of order. I'm telling you, it will just be entropy away to disorder. Every part of your life is a series of pivots and requirements. That's why we call it burn your boats, right? Order. You've got a great job. You've got a great business going really well right now. You've moved out of your mom's house. You live in New York. You've got a great girlfriend. The order. Trust me on this one. Disorder is around the corner. It's coming, and it's coming to get you. And you better have a plan. So, Clark, it's not rocket science what this financial freedom journey is. Let's summarize it in this, in this pause episode, if you will. Let's summarize. What is the simplicity of of taking earnings in your 20s, 30s and actually creating financial freedom, hopefully by your late 40s, early 50s, so that you can start to enjoy your life, start to, I'm just back from nearly 2 months away, right? Hiking, biking, spending time with my kids, right? How do we achieve that? What do we
You're
do?
I like what you said about, the marathon, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? That's used all the time. I like your analogy though. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably in the race, right? You may be in last place, you may be in first place, but you're at least in the race, right? You're not on the sidelines cheering saying, "Oh my god, those people are crazy for running a marathon. I could never do that. I don't want to try," right? So, congratulations. You are in the race, right? That is the biggest challenge, that 95% of people are the ones on the sidelines with a hot dog in their mouth cheering you on with the funny sign, right? Well, that's all well and great, but at the end of the day, they're not the ones running the marathon. So, congratulations, you're in the marathon. David, you're in the marathon. I'm in there. I'm somewhere between mile 1 and 26. I'm not really sure where. And, unfortunately, life doesn't tell us where we're at, right? So, we don't know where the final destination may be. But to once you're in the marathon, right, and you're running, you're not going to just sprint, right? The gun doesn't go off and you just sprint as fast as you can, right? You have to have a plan. You have to train for it. You have to practice for it. But you're not training for a marathon by watching YouTube videos or listening to podcasts, right? You're training by doing, right? So what are some of the things the tools that we're training with? Sometimes you're going to make mistakes, sometimes you're not. I think the number one thing that has enabled me to expedite my journey, expedite instead of buying one house, buy more houses, buy invest more. And the first kind of core principle, David, is just debt, right? It's you hear the term OPM, right? If you don't know what OPM is, it's other people's money, right? And other people's money is basically any money but mine, right? It could be your money, David, that you're lending to me. It could be Bank of America's money. It could be Aunt Sally's money. I don't care, but using debt, right, where I'm able to physically only put down maybe 5, 10, 15, 20% of an asset. And I get to reap the benefits of the effects of it, of the full 100%. That in itself is such a great tool. And I mentioned this on a few other episodes, David, when I was over in Italy having discussions, is that debt is not freely available for everyone to just keep buying and buying and buying. We have this unique opportunity in the United States to be able to have so much access to so much OPM, yet we don't use it. We're scared of it. What if something happens? What if a faucet breaks? What if a tenant doesn't pay? All of these things, right? And the crazy thing is that debt is actually your biggest friend as long as it's something that's put on an asset and it's not a credit card bill from the bill you ran up at a hotel last weekend sitting on the beach, right? So the number one thing that has impacted my life and I would assume it's probably impacted your life in terms of this core
Yeah.
principle is being able to get a interest and appreciation, being able to make money off of 20% my investment and 80% someone else's investment. That is as simple as I can make it. If I'm investing $20 and someone else is putting in $80 and then that full $100 kicks off $10 a year, I'm the one that gets the full $10, not the other 80%. So that in itself is such a core principle that I just don't think people really understand. So David, that kind of
Yeah.
leads into the next core principle that really is simplistic, but you need to fully understand it. David, enlighten us. What's the next core principle?
Yes, I'm so glad that you brought it up, that, and I'll just quickly add this to what you said. We had a guest, a young man doing very, very well, Christian Bonnier, on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we asked him what he's doing. He's making some money. He's in his 20s, we asked him what he's doing, and he said, "Well, I take my extra capital, I put it in Bitcoin, right?" And I was listening to another podcast. The other day, and there was a prominent person talking about how this whole generation behind us, they're not going to buy houses. They don't want houses. They're all invested in Bitcoin and crypto and shit like that, right? And the bottom line is that it's anyone who's invested in Bitcoin over the years, over the long haul, has done very well. There's no doubt about it. But you can only I'm going to compare the two real quick. With a cryptocurrency or something like that, it doesn't do anything, right? It doesn't have a utility. It has as long as the next person pays more for it than the last person, then it has value, right? And so the bottom line is over time, I can't say that investing in Bitcoin has been a terrible result for this generation. But I will say this: they can't use leverage. They got 20 grand and they invest in Bitcoin. They get 20 grand worth of Bitcoin. Where we get 20 grand and we buy $100,000 worth of real estate. Then, with real estate as an example, we get so many tax breaks. We make income free of tax. We create wealth free of tax. We can refinance. We can get our hands on our equity tax free. We can borrow against it tax free. We can sell it tax free. And all the while, we have a thing called bonus depreciation as well, which can write off the tax that we make in our day-to-day world, right? Through our LLCs. And so I'm not going to compare what crypto is to real estate because they're two completely different things. Bottom line is your point about leverage is that's the first pillar. Understand, I'm in millions of dollars of debt. Clark, and I know you are too, right? And the naysayers out there saying the sky is falling, and this, I don't care. It's the debt is the asset. Because guess what else is happening right now? We have pretty high inflation. What's that doing to my debt right now? So people say, oh, house prices are this. I've got high inflation right now. What's happening to my debt?
Nothing. Just
It's
it just continues to go
evaporating.
down. Yeah, it's going down
It's going down.
as you pay it down.
That number is going down. Well, rents are rising over time. My value of my asset rises. Because Clark, when you were a kid, how much did you pay for a Mars bar or a Snickers?
God, a Mars bar was probably like, 75 cents back in the day. I'm sure 50 cents.
Yeah, or a can of Coke. What's it now?
More than I can't walk into a CVS and get a 50-cent candy bar anymore.
Yes, what is it? $2, something like that. So it's four
Probably
times more
250.
expensive, right?
Yeah.
So the next part is time. understand that you're going to be alive. These 22-year-olds, these 25-year-olds, they're investing like they're investing like they're going to die tomorrow. They're high risk investments, and they could afford to do that. That is not where we see success over time. And I'm not saying that people don't make short-term gains. And I'm not even saying that people won't make long-term gains on crypto. But the bottom line is investing over time. Now, you're going to be investing for the rest of your life. Know that. Don't be afraid of it. You don't overanalyze it. Don't sit there and put all your eggs in one basket, but equally, you need to take action. I have had thousands of conversations with people who are highly educated, highly successful, and they are scared shitless about making a mistake, or even when they do investments, they want to blame somebody else because they didn't fully understand that things are dynamic. The market is dynamic. This is a marathon, not a race. So they get emotional about a short-term upset. We've talked about this before. If you had your work today and you had a shitty day in work, would you just come home and say, I'm not going back tomorrow? That's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. No, of course you wouldn't. If your car broke down on the way to work, would you just say, that's it? I'm not going to work anymore?
No more.
Investments, you need a psychological approach to investments. They take time. They take a long time. They are a marathon. So understand what's happening over time. You will be alive in 10 years. You will be alive in 20 years. You will look in the mirror. You'll be the same person with the same needs, right? You'll be older, right? And you're going to look back and say, shit, I wish I'd planted those seeds. Because the people who plant those seeds in their 20s and 30s are the people who have the option to walk out of the office in their late 40s, early 50s and say, you know what? I think I'm going to do something different. The people who are still stuck in the office going, shit, I played it safe. I did everything right. And now, the business is downsizing, or there's not that many 50-year-olds left in the office, or they're marginalizing me, or I've had lots of conversations with highly, highly qualified people in the last 2 years. Like they get let go, and they kick the biggest kick to their ego. They're not financially ready for it, and it's then they look back and go, "Holy shit! I gave everything to the company. I gave everything to this job, and they feel completely and utterly betrayed by the corporation or the employer or the industry. No, don't blame that. That was always there. That was always obvious. Blame yourself because you took the comfortable route. And so take ownership. Understand you have to invest. You have to use debt and leverage. In my world, right? Now, a financial advisor will say just always make a third of your salary contributions to ETFs and the like. And that's a very, very, that's very good advice as well. You're in the race. You're racing at a decent click. It's a different type of product because, again, it's not leverageable, so I'm a big proponent of leverage. So debt by time, Clark, and then the most important thing in all of this, as you well know, is scale. Don't go buy one house, and think, that's me. I'm a real estate investor. I don't really want to do any more. No, it's not enough. It's not enough. You need to invest aggressively, always. Not like, I'll do a little bit this year, a little bit next year. No, you need to be taking all of your spare income. Always. Don't put it in the bank. Let it sit there. Like, oh, I need rainy day money. You need to take whatever. Take, the standard advice is take 6 months. Equally, you can have assets that you can just, use as piggy banks, right? So I that's what I've done. But understand that you have to do things in scale. Now, if I'm going to out and I'm spending my money on motorbikes, fancy watches, holidays, $100 steaks, I don't have the money to do these things at scale. I have the money to do a few of these things. Oh, I put $200 a month into my
Right.
ETFs and I do da. No, put every dollar you can. Now, I'm not saying live like a monk, but I am saying if you want to understand, and you're going to hit the next point, Clark. I know we got this lined up. I need you to hit the next point really, really succinctly. We've debt, we've time by scale, right? What are those things creating? The magic word, the word that it's the most important word we try to get across in this podcast. Clark, take it away. What happens when you invest over time? You're harnessing inflation, you're harnessing leverage, you're harnessing scale, you're doing enough of it, right? What happens then, Clark?
It's called it's one of my favorite books, David. If you ever read The Compound Effect, it's I love it. It's got so much good stuff in it. It's something that I've certainly seen in my lifetime, and it's compounding, right? Is that if you I'm gonna go back to that example of the $100, right? Where I put $20 in and I get OPM $80, and then now I get, let's say, $10. So now it's worth 110, right? Well, to your point, if I'm taking that $10 off the table and I'm going and buying liabilities, okay, then it's there's not going to be the compound effect, right? But if I leave that $10 in next year, if I'm going to go earn 10% again, now I get to earn it on the $110, not the $100, right? And it doesn't sound like a lot. It's like, oh, $100. Now I've got $10. Then the next year I'll get, $11 or whatever that is. So I'll have $121. But then if you take your kind of algorithm where you're talking about scale, where yeah, that's one property, one investment. But what happens when you do it again and again? And I feel like that the thing that has gotten me ahead in life is by constantly taking the next bit of money that I've saved and putting it into the next investment. And what happens is that they grow and they grow and the rent grows and the principal starts to get paid down and you start to see a bigger spread between what you owe and excuse me and what it's worth, right? Called equity. And then when you have equity, people want to talk to you. You start getting new opportunities. Maybe banks are like, hey, I see you have this equity. Do you have the ability to go and get an equity line? Do you have the ability to refinance and take some of that money back out? And what happens, and what I've seen in my own journey, is I could have kept buying properties, right? The 20% down, and then they each have individual loans on them, and that's fine, and I'm making pretty good cash flow. But what I've done is I've taken that cash flow and I've taken some of that equity and then I've doubled down, right? And I'm using that to then go buy more properties, more ability to create more revenues, seeking activities. But it's based off of the compounding. Like it's based off of that $10 that I made on the 100. So now I'm playing with you're playing with house money. You're playing with not you're not playing with other people's money, you're paying with money that was created from other people's money to go buy more stuff, right? And that is insanity. It's like basically going to the casino, putting $100 on red, and you win $90. You put the $100 back in your pocket, and now you're just playing with the $90 again, and you win and again. Except your odds are a lot better than at the casino. I promise you that from self experience. So that in itself, the compounding of kind of taking debt, kind of taking the scale, and then doing it over a period of time. Because David, we do not live. You'd like to think if you're watching the news, if you're scrolling through your social media feed, is that everything happens in 6 months. The thing that I've taken away from 100 episodes, time and time again, talking to people that are extremely successful, right? Guys that are worth $100 million, right? They know a heck of a lot more than I do, and they basically it didn't happen overnight. Mark Zuckerberg didn't build Facebook overnight. Jeff Bezos, we've all seen the picture of him sitting in the garage with like a handwritten Amazon sign above his desk, right? Like, but no one acknowledges that. And I think in this day and age where everything is so like gotta have it now, gotta have it yesterday. So just know that being able to have the patience to not just try and day trade, right? Like a lot of people, like you mentioned Bitcoin, right? If you, as long as you're just kind of like staying in the game, like go buy some Bitcoin and then stop watching it. Like just move on with your day and let it go up and down and sideways. But it probably, the trajectory, just like real estate, will go up over time, right? So stop trying to day trade your investments, first of all, and just know that over time it will go up. And it also, you won't lose as much sleep. Who cares if Bitcoin went down to, X amount and you bought it at Y? If you don't sell it, you don't realize the losses. That's okay. You don't have to be an expert day trader. I was not an expert real estate trader, but what I was is I'm the ability to just buy something, goes up, down, this way, that way. I don't care because I know I'm just going to hold on to it. So that kind of philosophy of the compounding, David, has done me well. Right now, is it stressful from time to time? Are there times where tenants don't pay? Are there times where a property manager texts me and says, "Hey, you've got a $3,800 bill. Can you log in and pay it?" Yeah, you're damn right. Like it's not for everybody. But remember, if you want to be the 5% that's running the marathon, right? The one in the game, in the run, there you're going to get tired, right? You're going to hurt your knee, right? You're going to need to take a quick pause and grab a Gatorade or something like that. But ultimately, you're still in the game. You're not eating the hot dog cheering along on the sideline.
Yeah.
So, David, that's what's really impacted me in a very, very large way. And what is it that has impacted you? Have you seen kind of the same impacts on your career, your personal finances, your business finances, which then dominoes into your life, your relationships, your kids? You have more time or less time with your kids. You're going to their soccer games, you're not. How have you seen that impact your life?
Clark, I love that you just use the word day trading. I get so many people in their 20s and 30s will start dicking around with FX, currency trading or options trading. One of my friends is one of the biggest options traders in the world. And you can't compete against him. And when I tell him about these things, we talk about these things, he laughs, like they don't have a clue, really. They just don't have a clue what's really going on behind closed doors and what's really happening. So the bottom line is if you're out there and you're day trading and this, that, and the other, you won't win the marathon. It's highly unlikely. You might have a little lucky streak, you might do, but over time, you won't beat the market. And over time, you won't beat compounding. Compounding will catch up with you and beat you. So you might have a lucky run. You might have a little strategy that works for a while. And this goes down to you might have a restaurant that works for a while. You might have a business that works for a while. You might have a fill in the blank that works for a while. It could be anything. It's not just day trading but it could be, it's most businesses, it's most partnerships. This podcast is a good example. We've done 100 episodes. This was great, but we're burning our boats for a moment. We're saying, okay, this was the project. This is entropy at play right here. So the bottom line is the vast majority of wealth is not created through a hack. The vast majority, it's not created through a hack. It's not created through get rich quick or, even, most small businesses. It's not where it's created. It, it's not created in market cycles. A lot of people are out there right now, right this minute, take this away. It's a terrible time to invest in real estate. I'd argue it's the best time to invest in real estate over the last many, many years. Because
So would hey David, so would Warren Buffett. He would agree with what you just said
didn't he
based
just
on what he
invest
just
$100 billion in Lennar or something like that yesterday?
Yeah,
Is that it?
and or DR Horton. Yep.
There you go. So I would argue that this is the time to come in when houses are cheap, builder stocks are cheap. This is the time where you take positions, but by and large, they're long-term positions, right? So please carefully listen to this because this is what I took away from 3,000 conversations. Wealth is not generated by market cycles or by getting a great deal. It's generated through your psychology and your relationship with investing over time and taking the long approach. So your psychological approach to your financial future, if you take a long arc and you take consistent action, you're not afraid to make mistakes. The biggest mistake you can make is non-action, but your psychological state will determine your success, not your current hack, not the little thing you're day trading, your psychological relationship. Because most people who day trade will day trade until one day they come in and they've been wiped out. And then they're like burned for life, right? They're scarred for life. They've lost a limb at this point. They're like, oh, I got burned. Their ego gets kicked down, because they're not doing it right. They're trading emotionally or they're trading short-term stuff. Understand that your relationship with money and your spending habits and your psychological relationship with investing over time. So when you make investments, you make long-term investments, things that work over time, right? Not things that are fancy, not things that are exciting, things that are boring. Where did Warren Buffett make all his money? Coca-Cola, Amex, um, you know, banks, insurance companies. He's one of the richest men in the world. And he's every year he gets richer by, by considerably more than he was worth entirely the year before because of compounding, right? So control your, understand that you are your own, your worst enemy. When you start getting greedy, when you start, letting ego invest on your behalf, you start going, oh, I had a great day, I had a great month. Yeah, we used to say, Clark, and you've heard me say this a lot. I never celebrate the highs, and I
Yep.
never commiserate the lows.
Yeah.
I've had some big days in real estate where big checks roll in, and I've had some big days where big checks rolled out that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
Psychologically, have you seen me deviate between one and the other?
No. David, I want people to listen to that because I tended to really celebrate the highs and really commiserate the lows. And when we walked into our office together to start buying real estate together, that was a big thing I took away. And I remember we one day we sold like a multifamily deal. And we made like 120 grand or something. It was a good day. And I remember we were like, oh, that's good. We made 120 grand. We may have toasted our coffee cups on Thursday at 3 in the afternoon, and like, all right, let's get back to work, right? And at the same time, there were times where we got kicked in the what because we had to cover warranty items or things that were unforeseen, and we either didn't make any. I remember one time we mispriced a house where we accidentally priced it at our all-in cost versus our sale price, right? You remember? I don't know if you remember that. You probably do, and it's like we were all in for, let's say, 250 and we were going to sell it for, I'm just making this up, 300, right? And we sold it at 250, and then obviously there's costs coming out of that, right? And you know what, we said, well, we screwed that up. What do we need to do to make sure we fix that kink in the chain? And we moved on with our day, right? Like we lost 10, 15 grand, and that was it, right? And that's something that I want everyone to really listen to, is that if you can kind of contain it's emotional intelligence, right? If you can contain your emotional intelligence to be happy when you do something, but not be so happy and not be so sad when shit hits the fan, it keeps you in the marathon, right? You're slowing down in the marathon, and then you get sad because people are passing you, and then you just stop and go sit over and eat a hot dog with the fans. Well, that didn't do you any good, right? You've got to stay in the game, and controlling your emotional intelligence to be able to be excited, but not so excited and not get so low that you're like, screw it, I quit. If you quit, you lose the game.
Yeah, imagine starting a marathon. You get a mile in, and you're sprinting ahead of everyone else.
Yeah,
You got your hands in the air like you're going to win the marathon.
right.
Highly unlikely that you're the one who's going to win this marathon.
Right.
And
Yeah, exactly.
understand that analogy right there. There's times in a marathon it's going to be super hard. There's times in a marathon where you can't make another step. There's times in a marathon where you get your mojo back. You feel like you're in your stride. But the bottom line, you're in a marathon, and you're not finished the marathon until residually you have money coming in completely passively for the rest of your life to take care of you and yours. And that there's no scenario where you're going to run out of money, right? And I've always seen this. Mark, I would see a young person who's driving a Ferrari, and I'm like, if that person driving that Ferrari is like, hey, did you see blah blah blah, I got a new Ferrari. I'm like, does that person have to go to work next Monday morning? And if they didn't go to work, what would happen to the Ferrari?
Yeah,
When I
good.
asked that question, most people are like, no, I'm such a killjoy, right? I'm not. You're just an idiot with a Ferrari. Do you know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. We're talking about how the average man and woman protects themselves and creates wealth for themselves. Of course, there's IPO billionaires and there's tech zillionaires out there. Most of us aren't those. So if you are those, you're not
Fortunately.
listening to this podcast in the first place. You're
No.
listening to different stuff. But the people who are listening to this podcast are, let's call us normal successful, right? And so I want to really, really, dig into that. Control your ego, control your spending, the biggest threat is not the market. It's not the crash. It's you. You're the biggest threat, right? You're the one who's impulsive. You're the one who's saying, "Oh, I think I know what's going to happen in the future." You don't know shit about what's going to happen in the future. Nobody does. You are the one that has to have the discipline and to avoid impulsive moves by risky hot stocks and hot markets and hot this and hot that. Control your impulses, right? Have a disciplined approach to the marathon, and you will do well. And I think, Clark, and I want to talk to you about this, staying safe. We're talking about all of these other, you need to stay safe, right? So I'll give you a good example. In the last few years, and I've talked about this, but I'll say it one more time. How many large commercial syndications are in really big trouble right now?
More than we know. I mean, it's
More than
not
we
it's
know.
not good. Yeah.
How
There's a lot
many
of
times
equity being burned off.
equity? So that's people who went out, raised raised money, put other people's money down, and then took a load of leverage, right? And on the basis that interest rates are going to stay low for a long time. And now they not only have they lost the fact that they're now working for free, right? 3 years later, you were talking to a friend of yours the other day. I'm not going to name names, but you were talking to a friend of yours the other day, 3 syndications. He's not going to see a dime of profit. This 80/20, that's gone. And yet he's still the general partner on 3 deals. He still has to get up in the morning and work
Right.
for free.
Yep.
He has most likely lost, and not just him, many of these syndicates, most likely lost all, if not all, of their investors' money, right? Right. And because the market, they were doing things that they didn't, they were just playing with. Everyone was doing it. Everyone was in the party. Champagne was popping. The usual party bros are having Coke in the corner in the bathroom, right? We're all a family here. This is what we're all doing, right? Stay safe. I didn't do any of that stuff, and it was hard not to, but I have a very disciplined approach to investing. You know, I keep doing stuff. I keep building my own portfolio or building my own investment, my book of investments, but I do it slowly. I do it carefully, and I invest in boring, right? I don't invest in the latest thing because you can have a million or $2 million or whatever the number or assets you might have, and then you bring an elephant into the room, and that elephant can stamp all over your life. Stay safe. Don't do things that are boring and that other people can tell you. So if you've got a syndicator who's just straight out of Wall Street, he's got a good story, understand what you're doing, stay safe, right? In my world, I've largely invested in myself. So I haven't really had a big investment gene where I want that many other people investing on my behalf. I trust myself to be careful and diligent. So talk to me, Clark, about just real quick about the importance of staying safe and diversification and just investing reliably.
Well, it's interesting. I had that talk with a buddy of mine, and something that I kind of took away from it, especially as the market has shifted and it's gotten more volatile. And you said is investing in yourself. So I look back at what I've invested in myself, and investing means your energy, your time, and your capital. Right? It's not just like writing a check for $50,000. And I know that if I'm investing in something where I'm physically involved right now, a lot of people are going to say, oh yeah, but you're not leveraging every single person else's time. You're thinking too small, and maybe I am thinking too small. But at the same time, I'm not going to sink my entire ship because I get to see the project, I get to touch the project, I get to impact the project, and if I screw up, it was on me, David. It was on me. So I didn't hand $100,000 to someone that I don't even know, right? Kind of like a faceless company on a syndication somewhere doing an apartment complex in Buffalo, New York, right? Like where I just have nothing to do with that. And that's fine if you want to do that, but you are giving all the power away to somebody else and that you may not even know and you just saw on an Instagram ad, right? I have invested only basically in my own projects and maybe an arm's length with with people that I'm investing in that I know, I trust, I like. And yes, could I be missing out on opportunities? Of course I can, but it also hasn't sunk my ship yet, and I'm not, running back to a W-2 job either. So I think staying safe, yeah, it's boring, David. It's like, oh yeah, but you're not doing all these cool tricks and things like that. But at the same time, I get to see my projects. I get to talk to the or I get to talk to the general or the key principal operator in that property where I can have discussions with them, and that I have control. And when I have control, if I lose my ass on it, that's I just get to go look in the mirror, David, and say, Clark, you screwed up. That's on you. I'm okay with that. I can accept that, right? But if I'm completely throwing all my eggs in someone else's basket and I have no control, I don't really know them that well, that's harder. That's a tougher pill to swallow. But it's easier. It's lazier to just throw it into someone else's bucket. Whereas, yeah, it takes a little more time, a little more effort, but ultimately I get more control over how successful I'm going to be or lack thereof.
Yeah, and it's not exciting. You just keep on adding to your world. Because remember, Clark, the ultimate goal is financial freedom and independence and living life on your own terms. And people throw that out there. Well, let me tell you what living life on your own terms sounds like and looks like to me. For over 15 years, every summer, I take the whole summer and I go away to a different part of the world with my kids, you know, or my wife prior to having kids. And I can do that because now my rentals throw off enough income to support me all summer long. I do mad stuff. And then this year, previous years of Airbnb my house, which would give me 30, 40 grand while I'm away. This year, I swapped my house for a stunning, amazing experience. Swap the house, swap the cars. They had 3 kids, or they have 4 kids. We have 3 kids. We walked into their lives, their toys, everything. Amazing. It was such a rewarding summer to be just taking every morning, going for like 15-mile walks on the beaches and stuff like that, or hiking in Austria, whatever. That's what financial freedom is to me, because I'm quite an anxious person when comes to finances. But I can really slow down, smell the coffee, eat the croissant, um, take that bike ride and really smell the flowers, if you will, and enjoy the environment when my brain is truly free, right? And that is the most potent happiness that I can experience is I'm here, I'm healthy, I'm not worried about getting back next week. I've got
Yeah,
2 or 3 months to enjoy this,
yeah,
right? I travel slowly. I'm not bouncing into Europe and hitting, the hottest tourist spots in Europe over an 8 day, you know, I've got 10 days. Well, guess what? 2 of them are traveling, right? Oh my God. Financial freedom to me is a mindset. I do not need to be a bazillionaire. I know people way wealthier than me, way wealthier, way more ambitious than me, and I'm happier than they are. I've got less anxiety than they do, you know? So financial freedom, if that's the goal, is to remove financial anxiety or to remove anxiety in general out of your world so that you can focus on feeding your own soul, feeding your own curiosity, eating your staying healthy, being present with your children, you know, being present with your family when you visit them, being present with your mom and your dad, because they're not going to be around very much longer. If your mind is on the next meeting or this commitment that you've got to some piece of shit you will not remember doing, right? I look back at all of these conversations and all these commitments and all of these things, and I'm going to drop this on you. A lot of very successful investors, people who own big companies and big businesses, um, that I know, I'm not going to name names, if they have one regret, they'll say, you know what? I spent my life working on other people's goals. I own the business. I have a big name. People know me, but I've ignored my own finances. I'm out there on the stages. I'm out there on and the platforms. I'm out there in podcasts. People know I'm famous, but pull the kimono back. I haven't focused on my own business, on my own investments, on my own stuff. I just focused on the W-2 job or building the career or building the business. And then they look back at their own world and they've ignored it. So I'm going to give you this. When you get home from work every day or from that business, work on your own economy as early as you possibly can. Don't watch Netflix every night. Like, start investing, start focusing on your financial future. Don't say, oh, one day the business will be worth blah, 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 and we'll sell it. You don't know that. Or one day, I'll invest in real estate, or I'll do this syndication and it's an 80-20, and when that sells for 50 bazillion, then I'll make my money. You don't know that. Slowly. It's a marathon. And make sure, make absolutely sure that you're working on your economy every single day. Talk to your wife, your spouse, you know, talk to everyone around you. Have a great deal of input in your personal finances, Clark.
Yep, I love it. So, David, we're coming up on an hour here, so we need to kind of wrap this up. And I think that it's important for us to be able to kind of talk a little bit about why this is our 100th episode, but we said it was bittersweet, right? And so, is it we're kind of putting the pause button on it. We're certainly not closing it down. We're not closing the doors, but we're going to put it on the shelf for a second, for a moment, to be able to do exactly what you just said, David, which is you've got to focus on yourself, right? And like you said in the very beginning, like we've never sold anything. Like we're not driving you to say, hey, buy the thing that we're trying to sell. And then we kind of put a facade out there of an education. Like we're going to give, but oh, by the way, then hit you with the right hook and sell you a widget, right? Whatever that may be. So, but we're hitting the pause button, right? And the name of our podcast is Burn Your Boats, right? And you have burned your boats many times. I've burned my boats. I almost feel like it's like a rite of passage at this point. I feel like I'm burning my boats every 12 seconds right now. And as the market shifted over the last couple of years, I've burned my boats a couple times. And this is a piece of it in terms of our journey. And I'll tell you, for me, I am I do want to kind of focus a little bit more on building. I've started a plumbing business, kind of one of those boring businesses, as Cody Sanchez says, and I would like to focus on it a little bit more, and be kind of selfish, right? And so part of that is maybe taking a step back from burn your boats for a while, not forever, but maybe for 3 months or 6 months or 12 months or whatever that looks like. I'll be excited to be able to kind of come back and share some victories, share some struggles that I've gone through, because a lot of people are going to go through that. But that is the reason why we both decided to, hey, let's stick this thing on the shelf for a second. It's not the highest shelf that nobody can reach. It's the middle shelf, right? But I think that for me, focusing a little bit more, being a little bit more selfish as to being given the most energy I can give to something. And I one of the things I noticed, David, through a lot of conversations is that some of the most successful people that we interviewed, they did one thing, right? It's like Gary Keller writes the book, The One Thing, right? And they did the one thing, right? And they thwarted off. They thwarted off all those shiny red balls just bouncing all over the place, trying to grab their attention, their time, their capital, their money, their emotions, whatever that may be, right? And so I think it's a little bit of a step back to be able to kind of focus on that one thing, and knowing that once things kind of get moving more, we'll have some more content to talk about. We just don't want to jam the same stuff where we're just talking about the same thing. Has to be authentic, right? This has to be what we're passionate about. And what we've kind of found is that when you do 100 episodes that are mainly focused, the general theme around real estate investing, with a few different alternative assets to invest in, is at this point the market is a bit tough right now. There's not a lot of people that are jumping into real estate, so you tend to only talk about, the negative things. Oh, the interest rate isn't dropping. It's still hard to buy stuff. You can only do that so many times, and I think we've gotten to the point where like, okay, let's put our bookmark in. Let's see how the market starts to shake out a little bit. Let's focus on ourselves and our own personal businesses, and that's kind of why we're drawing the line in the sand a little bit for right now. Who knows what it looks like in 6 months or a year or whatever that looks like. David, what about you? Do you have it? You probably have a similar story, but what's making you hit the pause button from a personal standpoint?
Like I just said, we were away for 2 months, and I had a lot of time, out there to think about, time is the one thing. It's an invaluable asset, Clark. It's invaluable. You can get more money, you can get
Very
more
finite.
everything in life. You
Yep.
can't get more health, right? Well, you can if you live a healthier life, but you cannot get more time. That's it, time. Okay. And so time is finite. And if you have kids, you'll know it's super finite, right? And time alone, time to get things done. And so, with such a finite resource as time, and getting back to the start of the podcast, the idea of this podcast was for me, on my explanation, is to document for the thousands of phone calls I've had over the years, was kind of to document the psychological requirements to be a successful investor. You know, don't worry about the color of the house, or don't worry about the what the Fed chief is doing right now. Things fluctuate. Stop sweating the small stuff and start thinking about the marathon, right? And I've found that once you get that across to people, they're empowered, right? I feel that I have achieved that. I genuinely feel over the last 100 episodes, if somebody was to listen to all 100 of those episodes, I think they would be well equipped
Yeah.
to make
Yeah. I agree.
rational financial decisions. And so my mom, God bless her, she was a saint. She had something she would always say it to me. It's like, David, if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all. And so over this summer, I'm looking at the some of our other, podcasters that we know out there and other people in the business, and I'm seeing people making some pretty shady decisions in their approach to business because they have to, because they've got a machine that they have to feed. And I am so proud that you and I never had to feed a machine. Everything that you and I have ever said has been our honest opinion. It's been genuine, it's been authentic. And this conversation right now, we're telling you authentically, we would like to focus on. I've got a lending business that I'm working on, and I'm very passionate about it. And it requires a lot of my time. And you've got your new plumbing business as well. And now we both have multiple other things that we do,
Yeah.
just so you all know. It's when we talk about these businesses, these are just the feed me today things, right?
Right.
But our real estate portfolios require a lot of time. Insurance, getting like keeping our real estate portfolios insured. Clark and I have a decent sized real estate portfolio between the two of us. We have staff that need our time and attention. And the podcast has just become this thing that it's just naturally evolved, that we were just looking at episode 100. I was like, isn't that just a perfect place to leave it for now? We will come back to it when we have something nice to say, right? But for right now, I feel that the project of Burn Your Boats has met its initial goals. And I'm not prepared to stick in some monetization, some whiz bang, you know, social media stuff to attract something that is, for the most part, Clark, people don't want to know about long term tactics, long term psychological strategies. If you listen to most podcasts, it's all like what I should do now, 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 now. And most of it, the news cycle, the CNBC, the political news cycle, the general news cycle, the podcast, cycle. It's all about what you should do now, 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 now. The now has very, very little to do with the long term trajectory of your success. We have tried to make that point, and I will leave you with that point. And I want to thank the audience. I want to thank every one of you that has listened to us, that has given us your time, that has passed this on to your friends, your relatives, because it's been a genuine effort to give you the value that we have. We are not geniuses. We never said that we were. We don't have the latest hacks. We don't have the latest AI skills to discuss with you. We're not the most successful people in the world. We never said that we were, but we're successful in our measure of success. And we're successful by a lot of the people we've spoken to over the years by their measure of success. And their measure of success is financial freedom so that they can live life on their terms. And if you go back and listen to the last 100 episodes and you follow what we've said, I believe we've delivered on that. And so, with that being said, Clark, I leave you there. Thank you, Burn Your Boats. Thank you, Clark. Thank you for sitting in for the last 100 episodes. We've actually done about 118 episodes, but a few
Yeah.
of them are mislabeled. But this has been 100. I want to thank you, Clark.
Yeah.
You've sat in here, you've listened to me rabbiting on, talking bullshit. And, I want to thank you for your wisdom. I know that we have two very different styles, you know. You have possibly got a new project where you're going to launch some, podcast that might talk to a different audience. You want to quickly tell us about that before we wrap up?
Yeah, I've got a new project that's kind of in the works right now. It's baking in the oven. It's gonna probably be focused a little bit more around I want to talk to people that I'm just selfishly interested in. But I'm interested in everything we talk about here, from financial habits, entrepreneurship, but I'm also very interested. To your point, you just spent 3 months in Europe. Well, that's really cool. I spent 3 weeks in Europe, right? I want to spend 3 months, not 3 weeks. And so I think that I'm going to start a bit of a newer project that's a little bit more geared towards lifestyle. So it's business, entrepreneurship, your health, your mindset, talking to people in different fields that aren't just in like kind of the business, real estate field. So I'm excited to be able to work on that. I don't have a name for it yet. I don't have everything. Like I said, it's still baking in the oven. But stay tuned, because I want to bring some really cool guests and be able to really kind of peel the layer back, peel the curtain back to see how they've been able to achieve success, financial freedom, time freedom. So I'm looking forward to bringing you that, David. But at this point, I thank you for listening to my banter. I've enjoyed being able to go back and forth and agree and disagree and talk to. We've met so many cool guests along the way, and this is not a goodbye, David. This is a I'll see you around, and for the podcast. And I think the listeners, you've been engaged. You reach out to us. Hopefully we've been able to kind of guide you and point the fire hose in the right direction. If anything, just kind of cut out some of the mistakes you may have made earlier on. Maybe you're able to expedite your journey just through a quick 10-minute call, something like that, to be able to cut out some of those mistakes. So that's what makes me feel good. That's what kind of fills my gratitude. And but yeah, look forward to, stay tuned, check my social media for new updates on kind of the new project I'm working on. But at this point, David, I've loved every minute of this. I feel like we've achieved a lot. I was just scrolling through all our episodes, and I'm like, man, like we've done a lot of cool stuff. We've talked about a lot of things, interviewed a lot of cool guests, and hopefully impacted a lot of lives, which is ultimately the goal. We didn't have anything to sell you. We didn't have the widget, the whiz bang, the buy this course, the buy this education, go play golf with me. I don't play golf, so it'd be pickleball on my side. And I think I'm proud of that we were able to be as authentic as possible without having a boss. And that boss is, saying, hey, my boss is that you've got to go make money. You've got to turn this listener that reaches out to you into a customer, right? I feel very, very good that the listeners are still our listeners and they don't have to be a customer. So, with that being said, David, I think we're
Stop it right
what?
there. I want to make a special point to anyone who's still with us on this episode. I want to thank Sheena Berry. Sheena Berry she's our long suffering assistant. We have thrown everything, including the bus and a half built airplane and a
Barely
mine
built.
underground and a broken piece of machinery. We have thrown everything at her, including this podcast. And she has edited it. She has created all of the social media behind it. She has created the CRMs behind it. She has listened to every word we've ever said. She's cut out a lot of stupid shit we've ever covered. And without Sheena, this podcast would never have been made.
No,
We would
that's
never
a
have
fact.
gotten to 100 episodes. And I want to give a very, very special thanks to Sheena. And we owe her a great debt of gratitude. And I know you're listening to it, Sheena. So thank you from the
Thank you,
bottom
Sheena.
of my heart. I want to thank you for this. And with that being said, we're going off to burn our boats. And remember this, if you know it or not, your boats are being burned. So take control of your life, take control of your finances. So until next time, Clark, burn those boats.
Burn those boats, everyone. Thanks so much. We'll see you again.